Hey, this is Beverly Bozeman, and welcome to another episode of About Her Ministry. And today I have a special guest. I have Pastor Dawn Winsley of the Family Church in Voorhees, New Jersey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
You are welcome, and we are just so excited to have you on today. And if you guys have not seen her Facebook page, be sure and go and check it out. She has some sermons that will rock your socks off. So my first question is, what's the meaning behind the name of the church, the Family Church?
So the Family Church, it's interesting because we were going to be the Family Worship Center. And my husband said, no. So at the last minute, he changed it. And he said, no. He said, I want something more relational, more intimate, non-traditional. And he said, we're the family church. I want to be the family. I want to minister to everybody in the family, you know, the fathers, the mothers, the children. And he said, and I want to create a community where people can feel like this is their home. He always makes the comment, people will belong before they believe. And I love that because that I've seen that come into fruition at the church. There are people that, you know, may have even been different faiths. And as soon as they came to the church, eventually, you know, they believed, you know, and so we try our best to create an environment where all ethnic backgrounds, and it doesn't matter, you know, you know, the faith that you once were, when you come, you will definitely hear truth, but we'll also provide an environment where it's loving and inviting and welcoming.
Okay. That's really, really good. I like that because to me, when I heard the name, the Family Church, I pretty much considered everybody, well, a lot of people of different beliefs coming together and being one family. So I just wanted to see if that was what I was thinking.
So they may have had different beliefs, but when we come together, we all believe the same, you know,
right.
And Jesus and you know, but yeah, you're right. It's everybody coming together, nobody feeling like, hey, I don't have on a 3-piece suit, you know, or a big hat, but I have on some, you know, some jeans with a couple rips in them, and, you know, and you know, I might not look like the average person might look like going to church of what we knew it to be. Things have changed. And so, you know, wearing a t-shirt is pretty normal coming to church versus you know, a dress. And so millennials are very much a part of our community, you know, and feel very comfortable coming in. And I think they really love the relational part of how we minister, you know, and the transparency. They can smell a fake.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Would you say that you guys have any of the traditional church at all, or is it just totally non-traditional?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I have a couple of wooden tithe and offering boxes in our lobby. And everybody's like, oh my God, Pastor Dawn, what are you doing? That's so, you know. And I said, listen, y'all can't take away all my tradition, you know. And, you know, and they laugh. But, you know, it's interesting because although there is an environment that is created and inviting and more of a contemporary type flow, we definitely still, you know, Jesus is the same. But you know, when you do come into our sanctuary, we do have the lights and, you know, the stage lighting, and it might be a little, you know, dark in certain areas. And so the praise and worship, it's like an experience, you know, versus something that we may have been used to back in the day. And I think a lot of churches have been forced, if you will, to make a change, especially due to the pandemic. And how we once did church won't work now. You know, you can't shout all day on Facebook Live because they'll click you off. Right. And so I thank God for when we started the ministry, we started it very non-traditional. However, it does not negate the fact that we still have seasoned members. One of my oldest members is 94. Then it drops down to about 86, not 70s, 60s. So we do have more mature members, and they are very much involved. Our 90-year-old, they're up there, but my 84, I think it is, and 78-year-old, they're very active. And we really thrive off of their expertise in terms of their knowledge, just being in church for so long. But yeah, we do have some elements. I mean, we water baptize, but again, it's not necessarily with the robe on. My husband and I, we don't preach in robes. We don't wear the collars. And I realized, because my background is Church of God in Christ, and and at one time Baptist. And so at first I was a little shocked that, what do you mean we're preaching from an iPad and not the Bible? So that perplexed me. And then once I started preaching, I was like, wait a minute, it's easier to get to the scriptures with this iPad. So, I think the changes are more so relevant to 2020,
So how do your older seasoned members, how are they adapting to the changes? Because I'm pretty sure at that age that they may be used to the traditional churches. Yeah.
I would say it took some of the, maybe somewhere, late 20s, early 30s. It took more of a while for them to adjust, because again, our children, my daughter is 26. So, them being kind of like, if you will, dragged to church, they were used to a certain way churches are. So I think people who can see God, it wasn't a change because God didn't change, So whether we did communion without white gloves, it didn't necessarily matter. I also, one of our oldest members, I wanted to have a permanent seat for them, kind of like the mother of the church. And she looked at me like, what, and so it was offensive to her, because in her mind, she's thinking, I'm serving, what, why you want me to sit down? I got a lot in me, and they serve harder. As a matter of fact, both of our oldest members cleaned the church. So they cleaned the church. Of course, with the pandemic, it stopped, and some of the younger ones are here, but they actually clean the church every week. And I'm telling you, this church looks immaculate. So, but they definitely, were able to adjust. I did have one member, actually, he was in his 60s, and he could not transition in his heart that praise and worship, some of the praise and worship team had on hats. He was like, men just should not wear hats in a building. And I, and I had to look, wow, lose you or, 150 millennials, you know what I mean? Let me choose. And I said, you know what, if a hat is going to make you leave, then you really weren't here. Yeah. And so, so things like that. And so that was very few. I think now, Beverly, with us being online, people are seeing how rich the word is that's coming forth. And so now people are, experiencing the church and it's straight word, you know what I mean? Because that's all they're really getting online, has really spoke volumes for us. So, it's not a kiddie church full of millennials. It's a church that is appealing to people who want God.
Awesome. I love that. So let me ask you this next question. Was becoming a co-pastor an easy choice for you?
I would say it wasn't a choice as much as it was a call. I do believe that because I'm not just I guess, I would always tell the members, if you ask any of them, they'll say, she's not a first lady. Mm-hmm. Don't call Pastor Dawn a first lady, because I'm a very active co-pastor. In my husband's stead, he was actually out of the pulpit for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months when he had surgery. And so I was, the person who stood in for him. So I preached on Sundays, Wednesdays, did all the counseling. I did everything so he could, recover and all of that. So I'm a very active. I think you don't find a lot of pastoral teams. My husband is the head. He is the senior pastor. However, since we are still a brand new church, we're only 4 years old, so we don't have ministers. However, we just ordained some deacons, but he and I are the speaking, the main speaking gifts. We do marry, bury, teach, preach, all of that. So again, doing what I'm doing, you have to be called. I am a fivefold ministry gift as well in my own right. So it's not, if I weren't married, I would still be preaching. I don't know if it would be in a pastoral type if I weren't married, but if I weren't married, I definitely would have been. I would have been a preacher. Now, and I was a minister in my former church, and so there is definitely a call on my life, not necessarily where I just kind of sit pretty on the front row. One of our main comments that the people in the church could also recite is that you'll never outserve your pastors. Like today, I already shared with you, I had food pantry, and, I'm also the administrator, running around with the electrician, and, then I had a counseling call, and then, somebody went to share a testimony, and, then my husband called, my dog got sick at home, so I do a lot, and I know that it's only because of God's grace that I'm able to do it. And I can be whatever he needs me to be. But even, to add to that, I also, my degree is in educational administration. So I was a former principal, so I've also operated in leadership roles outside of the church, and currently working on my doctorate degree. It was organizational leadership, then I switched it to Christian leadership. So again, there are things that I'm doing in preparation for whatever God needs from me, so yeah. So to answer your question, it's a calling. It really is. And I do feel very, very prepared for the call.
Okay, awesome. I know that as a pastor, you face a whole lot of situations, and you probably have to smile through all of them, regardless of what it is. How do you handle the rumors about the church, or about you, or about your husband? Because, you are out front, you and your husband are out front, you have targets on your back. And I know it has to be some kind of overwhelming. So how do you handle, well, not necessarily rumors, I'll just say the negativity that's affiliated with it?
Yeah, I would say this. When we started the church, he and I had, of course, we were at our former church for over 20 years in a leadership role. He was the assistant pastor, and I was one of the ministers there. So we were there for over 20 years. And so we weren't coming as novices. I would say my former church did a great job really preparing us for people. And, there was a lot of interaction as ministers that we had for people. So we, really had a good gauge on how people operate. And so when he and I started the ministry, we understood the concept of love versus loyalty. And I think and that you don't own people. And so those were the two things. Understand what love and loyalty is, and then understand that you don't own people. And I think I would encourage any person in a leadership role as a spiritual leader to really get that revelation. Loyalty says, how dare you leave me when was there at your sick bed, and I was there every time you called me, and I gave you food when your family couldn't eat. Love says, if that's what God is telling you to do, then you have our blessing. And if you believe that God's telling you to leave, then but you understand that the doors are always open to you. So that's love. And understanding the two has helped us when we did have people, if they left the church for whatever reason, if there were personality whatever it was okay. And ownership, because we don't own people, then it's okay. Now, does it hurt? We are human. Sometimes you got to get past the flesh, like, no, she didn't, but then it's like, but you know what? At the end of the day, we're confident in God's product here. And so regardless of what you say or what you think, we know that our goal is to see people healed, whole, and set free. And when I hear testimonies like I heard prior to getting on this call, that's what keeps me going, And again, because we don't own people, it's okay. Just as well as they leave, they come, and at the end of the day, we go very hard in ministry, and everybody who is a member here that is connected, they know that their pastors genuinely love them.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be an awesome feeling, especially when you see them sometime down the road and you see the growth that they have spiritually and mentally, and to know that God has worked through you to make sure that they get the seeds, tools, and instructions to be more effective in the kingdom. That has to be an awesome feeling.
And I think, I'm an educator. I'm also a professor, and I taught all the different grade levels. So as a teacher, that's very rewarding when you see kids come in one way in the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, and then I taught special ed. So that was even more rewarding. So, you're kind of used to the, oppositional defiant, if you will, and then, and to understand that is in the church. And so I think the word that we preach helps people to have that self-confrontation with themselves and the Holy Spirit. So we're always helping people with character, and helping people with attitude, and helping people with, just the day-to-day things, strongholds, and, getting to the root of why do we act the way we do. So preaching versus just kind of talking about Trump or current events, or, or just hooting and hollering and not saying anything to them. They do leave with something that's been, kind of anchored on the inside. And really that helps a lot, because they'll say, hey, Pastor, the Holy Spirit really ministered to me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, it's not a thing where we say, well, we told you so. It's like, okay, praise God, Holy Spirit, for ministering to them. And again, I think when people see that you love them, and then again, when you have to correct them, because we also have to have hard conversations too. When you correct them, because they know you do love them, it's, a lot of them can receive it, because it's like, well, I know you do love me. You're not trying to hurt me. And, starting a church, and being a young church, I would say 98% of the people came from church hurt. So we spent a lot of time trying to undo some of the things that were done, whether it was, by the pastors, or it was the person. I mean, and I will always tell people, people can't, do things to you unless there's something in you that's allowing it. And so again, we're always trying to heal that inner, so that way what people do see outwardly is authentic and real.
Okay, that makes sense. So we know that you are a co-pastor, and you are a wife and a mom, and you're also a doctoral student.
And a grandma.
A grandma. Oh my gosh. And you are the receptionist or administrator for the church, and you work at the food bank for the pantry for the church. So with all of these different hats, how do you find balance, or what is your definition of balance for your life?
I would say it's important for me and my husband to be in agreement because we speak outside of church. We marry, we bury. We counsel. Again, by us being the only ministers at the church, and we have over 550 members. So there's a lot of things that are that really go into the day-to-day things that we do, because there are just some things that you can't delegate.
Mhm.
And so I think it's very important that you and your spouse are in agreement. And me and my spouse are in agreement. We've recognized the season we're in. My kids are grown. And so we've recognized the season that we're in, and that's important. However, if I had small babies, I couldn't serve at this level. But I've recognized that the church is a baby, and as a spiritual mother, it's important there are certain things that the baby needs at this level. They need mom and they need dad, and so there are things that we've just agreed for this season. I keep sharing with the members, the leaders, that we're entering into a new season, and some of the things that we did during this pandemic, we're not going to be able to do. In other words, every day, if you go on our Facebook page, we're ministering. We do a midday devotion every day at 12:30, 5:30 in the morning. Everybody, we have a prayer call. I preach every Wednesday. My husband preaches every Sunday. And so it's nonstop. And I think during the pandemic, without us being able to have in-person church, we needed to do that. Plus we have the technology and all of the things that are needed in order to still give God the glory through all of the products that we do have, the technology and everything. So, but there's going to come a time where we can't continue to go as hard as that, because again, there are, again, I just started my courses, my classes again. So, we're entering into a new phase. And I think we've recognized that we're in a sowing season.
Mhm.
And so we're sowing into leaders. And I'm excited because we're going to experience a tremendous harvest. And, there'll be a lot of people surprised that they're even ready, not realizing that we've been preparing them. And so in that next season, they're going to help with shepherding the next generation of people. So, balancing is definitely agreement with your spouse. I don't do anything that my husband's not in agreement with. And we have a very fruitful, we've been married over 26 years, a very fruitful marriage. We're best friends, and we're actually, we're excited. My way of relaxing might be different than yours. I'm not on the phone all the time, so with another person, I don't have it. I just don't have some of the time that maybe some other people might have. But again, I'm okay with that because I don't need that. I'm in a different season,
Right. That's important to have that recognition of where you are, not just as a pastor, but just in this particular point in your life. It
Yeah.
makes a difference because some people may still try to cling to the people from back there, and everybody
Yeah.
can't go to where you have to go. And it's like, sometimes carrying heavy luggage and you're not focusing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So my next question to you is, if you could ask any one person in the Bible a question, who would it be and what question would you ask them?
Child, I would ask Eve. I sure would. I would ask Eve. Eve would be the first one I would roll up on. I would roll up on Eve and ask her, why? Why did you listen to your husband? You knew what the brother said. Like, why didn't you listen? Why did you? No, I think it would be Eve. She's her story has helped me to free a lot of women. Her story has helped me to, as a matter of fact, I'm teaching a class called No More Lies. I got like over and 56 ladies registered for it. And we had to close it because people are just, that was just such a topic that, the women, the enemy, that's how he constantly plays with women and, by speaking lies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, quite a few of my sermons, my women's ministry sermons and classes have been built around her and what took place. And so I would say she would be one that I would ask, man, you had everything. You had the biggest house. Yeah. You had everything, the biggest closet that you could ever want. Anything you wanted, all your husband had to do was just speak it. You were told to take dominion. Why this one little thing that you were told not to touch? Why did you do it? What did he, what was it? What was it that was so tempting, to the point where he started looking better than your husband? That serpent, what happened? And, and then Adam would be my next, I probably would just take him off to the side and just, get with him. Like, why didn't you, correct your wife? Why did you let her manipulate you? Why, So, but I would have to sit and have some conversation with her, but I would tell her, that it did help with, again, women learn their lesson based off of her actions.
That is so very true. That's true. I would not have imagined asking her anything, but I would sit and roll my eyes at her. You knew better. Okay.
Girl, childbirth. Do you not understand, Eve? I had my child at home. I didn't make it, and I had to go through, all because of.
I don't know. What did you do to us, Eve? Oh my gosh. Anyway, we'll move forward and let her be where she is. Exactly. So, what was the best advice that you've received, whether as a minister or just your everyday life?
The best advice that I've ever received, I would say, you said it doesn't have to be ministry related, just anything.
Mm-hmm. Anything.
I would. I think. It's just been so many nuggets that I've had, women that have poured into my life. One minister shared with me that that really just blessed me. I use that to this day. You're supposed to be a reservoir, and your husband is supposed to drink from your well, and it should be sweet and not bitter, and being mindful, that what comes out of me, and that it's influential, to my husband, and I should use that influence in a positive way, not being manipulative, or, use it in a way that could cause harm to him. So, and then, all of that, just going back to, just always being in agreement. I think being in ministry, it's important, if you are a ministry team, it's important that you and your husband are in agreement, because the devil's desire is to divide ministry couples. It's to divide through the people. He'll try to divide you, disagreements and how things, should be run. Your giftings are different, and respecting each other's giftings. My husband is not a detailed person. He's a visionary. I'm detailed, so I'm a little bit more cautious. He just, hey, let's go. And I'm like, okay, well, how we going to let's figure out how we going to go. Mm-hmm. So I would say just being, just always being in agreement, and having that connection that nobody could ever break, because I believe that's the way, our agreement causes God to constantly speak to us, thus making our marriage, for us to operate cohesively and not separate.
Awesome. I love that. That's really, really important, especially if we know that the enemy has come to divide us, as a couple, and we're ministry minded. then that's just something we just have to stay mindful of, this, and it will be those little things, because sometimes I think the enemy knows that you're just not going to be tempted by this, and you're no longer going to do that because you just find it repulsive. But it's just those little things that are like paper cuts. They hurt and they can get infected and can turn into something totally worse. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Love it. One last question, and that would be, what is something that people would be surprised to know about you?
I think they would be surprised that I always said I was an introvert, and people laugh because, everything about me is an extrovert. But whether it's around personal friends, I'm that person who will crack a joke, just the life of the party, just loving, very social, in church, love people, love ministering to people. But but I don't necessarily, being around a whole bunch of crowds or people, I'm just as content, being by myself and in the living room, or with my husband, or with my children. I think people would be surprised if they knew that I wasn't one that, needed to, I'll say it that way, because I still love people, or just needed to be around crowds of people, or and even always felt comfortable, but so I would say that would shock people.
Mm-hmm.
That would shock them because of the type of personality that I do have, is that, it's, you would think that I just always would want to be around people, but, my relaxation times, the best of them are either by myself or with my spouse.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. So, Pastor Dawn, how can people find you, get in contact with you, or check out some of your sermons?
So on Facebook, it's under Dawn Winsley, DAWNWINSLEY, Dawn Winsley, on Facebook, or on Instagram, Pastor Dawn W. Yep, Pastor Dawn W. I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Pastor Dawn W. That's my Instagram page. And of course, the Family Church, New Jersey, is our Facebook page. And TFC New Jersey is the Instagram page. And so, but we have our website. It's www.thefamilychurchnj.com. And of course, all of our sermons are on there, and, other types of things that, we sell T-shirts and, a whole bunch of things. We're doing what we call a fearless movement. And so for the last 104 days, we've been on this fearless movement. In other words, we've been praying in the morning, 5:30, so people can connect with us on our prayer call, and all that information is on our website. Every morning at 5:30, we have prayer warriors praying, and we have a prayer directive that my husband and I do, midday devotions at 12:30 p.m. on our Facebook page and our YouTube. You can find us on YouTube as well, The Family Church. And of course, I preach every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. on our The Family Church in New Jersey Facebook page. And Sundays, 8:45 and 11, and then it runs 3, 5, and 9. My husband, we're also, that's our services. So it's quite a few ways. I think the fearless movement has been a blessing, because, this has been a season where fear was just bombarding people's doors. It was just all up in your face, whether you lost your job or people were passing away, this coronavirus. And so we said, we're not going to give until this virus gives. Mm-hmm. And so we're on our 104th day, where we're doing everything that we can to constantly keep fearless truths in the ears of the people. And so many testimonies are coming out of that. They're like, oh my God, I want to be fearful, but I can't, because it's just too much word in me. And so we're excited about that. But that's how I can be reached.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Okay, you guys, make sure that you go to social media, Facebook and Instagram, and check them out to see what they have going on. And they have some really awesome sermons. I've heard one or two of them, and I just really enjoyed what I heard. So that's about it for this episode of About Her Ministry. Thank you, Pastor Dawn, for coming
Thank
on. We
you.
really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hopefully we can have you again another time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to release your genius, pull off the impossible every day, and let's be glamorous, godly girls.